It's nice grass though. Okay, so test tomorrow, okay? Chapter 5. There are 15 matching questions. The split into 2 sections. Okay, so not 15 in one, but 7 and 8. Okay. A lot of those questions are just like let me just check on something here. Did we do this last section? We watched the movie, and then we were done? Huh? Did we do these notes?
I don't think we did.
You haven't seen this, right? I did How a Bill Becomes a Law, right? Did this page, right?
Yeah, you did that page.
We did floor debate. Okay, well, cancel the test on Friday. It's next week, apparently, because we got to finish these notes. Are you freaking out? What? Yeah, go. Yeah. He doesn't like it. He doesn't like it.
Is he okay?
No, I think like he might be. Yeah, he might throw up. He didn't look like he.
Michael does throw up.
Especially Oreos. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Okay. So I don't know. Sometimes, when you get old, you get confused, right?
Yeah.
Like Joe Biden, right?
Yeah.
What? Well, yeah. I mean, it's almost every day you see something going on with the president where he's confused. Okay. Oh, by the way, we talked about the masks on airplanes. So a federal judge in Florida said that CDC does not have the power to force people to wear masks on airplanes. Okay. And so the TSA and the airlines, I think most of the airlines said, yep, take them off if you want. Now you can wear them, obviously, if you want to. But anyhow, the Obama administration is going to challenge that, appeal that, because they feel like the CDC needs to have that power in the case of a pandemic, that sort of thing. So that's one of the things we talk about with government, guys, is what powers does government have and what powers do they not have, okay? And so when that decision came out, it's been a couple days ago that federal judge made that decision, and now they're going to appeal that. So we'll see what the appeals court, and then maybe it goes to the Supreme Court, okay? So, all right, so we were talking about how a bill becomes a law, and somewhere in there I got distracted and thought we were done. And I think the reason for that, guys, is I'm doing the same thing in my honors government classes. So how a bill becomes a law, and I finished with them, and they're taking tests tomorrow, and I was just like, I thought I was on the same page with both classes. Okay, so we're not, obviously. I need to go back over this. Now, if you were here yesterday, I went over how Obamacare became a law. Yes? Okay, which usually I say for the last day of this, just kind of as a review, yes? So now the review, or the notes will be a review of how Obamacare became a law. Good? Okay. And Kinsey, you were gone yesterday. I did post a video on how Obamacare became a law. It's like 22 minutes long. And that's under Honors Government and on my YouTube channel. So, but it says how Obamacare became law. Okay. All right. So, we talked about, let's review real quick. We got 6 steps to how a bill becomes a law, correct? Right? So, who gets to refer the bill to committee? In the House? In the Senate majority leader, okay? Then they have hearings where people come in and support or opposition to the legislation, okay? And then they do the markup. That's where they do the exact phrasing. The genuine debate takes place in those markup sessions in committees, okay? If it makes it out of committee, it goes to the floor, okay? And this is where it gets confusing because the rules in the House and the Senate are very different on the floor consideration. Okay, so fast forward to that. Floor consideration. Okay. And then I talked about this in the last lecture on this, which was these are the 2 big things they have to decide the rules on. How long are they going to discuss this or debate it? And secondly, what changes or amendments will they make to the bill, if they allow any? Okay, so strict rules that don't allow any changes increase the importance of what the committee did because the committees are the only ones that are going to have a say on this. Okay, less strict rules open the bill up for a lot of changes, especially in the Senate, as I will explain, because the rules are in the Senate, there are no rules. Okay. Now, in the House, they actually have something called the House Rules Committee, okay, where they're going to set the rules for each bill. So, remember, they're talking about how long we're going to debate this and what changes or amendments. An amendment is a change to the bill they're going to allow, okay? So, open allows members to add amendments, okay, changes. Hope you feel better, man. No test tomorrow. You shouldn't come to school today. It sucks. Okay. Closed. No amendments, no changes allowed, or modified. Certain parts of the bill may be adjusted or not. Okay. This is a good picture of the House chamber, guys, that, you know, where they have the 435. This is during a State of the Union address, so you've got all 435 members of the House, you've got all 100 senators there, okay? And then you've got people like the cabinet and sometimes, the Joint Chiefs of Staff and the military will come. Some Supreme Court justices will come for the State of the Union, where the president is here, the speaker is here, and the vice president here, okay? Because the speaker's the head of the House. Vice President of the United States is the president of the Senate. So they're all there with the president, and then you have honored guests at the top, okay? All right. So House rules are not easily changed, okay? So the Senate, like I said, there's no set rules, strict rules here. No limit on the number of changes you can make to a bill. Okay, so I got into some stuff yesterday that might have been confusing to you guys because I haven't covered this. Nobody stopped me and said, Mr. Ebright, I don't remember talking about this, so I just kept going. And then stopped for the day. Okay. So that's on me. It's also on you. Okay. But I didn't sleep well the night before, and so I'm all, I'm a mess. Okay? There you go. I admit it. All right, so the new rules are there are no rules, okay? Now, you can put rules on if you get one of these, a unanimous consent agreement. So if 100 senators agree to say, okay, we're only going to debate this for 1 hour. Republicans get 30 minutes, Democrats get 30 minutes. Then if all 100 agree to do that, you have rules. If all 100 agree with a unanimous consent agreement that we're not going to allow any changes to this bill, no amendments can be added to it. Okay? then you have rules. But if one senator disagrees with the rules, then there are no rules. If that one senator can get the floor of the Senate, okay, he can do a what? A filibuster. Okay? If two senators get the floor, they can share that filibuster, right? I can yield to you, you can yield back to me, and we can do this all day. Okay? And then yesterday I talked about 2009 when the Democrats had 60 seats and the Republicans had 40. 60 votes ends a filibuster. And so in the movie, Mr. Smith Goes to Washington, right? At the beginning of his filibuster, did they have 60 people that could have stopped him? Yeah, so the movie's a little historically inaccurate now. Now, it used to be 75. Used to have 75 to stop a filibuster, okay? So I have that on the next slide. Okay, and there's our famous Mr. Smith, yes? So, congressional procedure allows one or more senators to hold up a final vote on a bill through delaying tactics. So without unanimous consent, you could get a filibuster. This can range from nonstop speaking to offering endless amounts of amendments. Could last 4 hours, giving intense interest of a minority, okay, intense minority control over the majority of the Senate. Now, did I talk to you guys about Strom Thurmond, how he was the one that had the longest one ever? Yeah, okay, 24 hours, okay. And today, with the Senate being 50-50, anything that the Democrats put forward in the Senate today, guys, the Republicans can stop with a filibuster. Does that make sense? So there has to be compromise. So in essence, guys, you need 60 votes to pass anything in the Senate today. You understand? So you're going to have to convince 10 Republicans to vote with the Democrats. Okay? And sometimes they find common ground. Not very often, though. Okay? Let me give you an example where you might see unanimous consent. Okay? The other day in my business law class, I had Ella Ellsfeld's dad in, who runs a company or several businesses, and he talked about hiring veterans and convicted felons. Our Congress passed a law a couple of years ago that gives tax credits to businesses that hire our veterans. You know, people that might have gone to war, they come home, they get out of the war, sometimes they struggle, and so you get a tax break if you give a veteran a job. Same thing with convicted felons. You're like, what are you doing that for? Well, guys, people make mistakes, they go to jail, they get out of jail, and a lot of people don't want to hire them because they're a felon. You follow me? Well, we don't want these people to go back to jail, do we? So one way to help them not go back to jail is to give them a good job so they don't screw up again. Yeah? Because people that are busy tend not to get in trouble. It's when you got downtime is when you get in trouble. Okay? Any of you guys that are athletes, I always did better in school during my season because I didn't have time to be lazy. I had to be disciplined. I mean, like, I got to go from one thing to the next, and I'm not going to watch Netflix Because I don't have time. I got to do my stuff. Now, that takes discipline, okay? But I don't know, it was always that way for me. So you just get in that work mode, okay? So, no, I mean, Republicans and Democrats agreed with that law. So in the Senate, you might get 100 senators say, hey, yeah, we don't need to change this. This is a good law. We really don't even need to debate it. Let's pass a unanimous consent agreement to suspend debate or amendments on this and vote on it. And all 100 agree and the bill passes. 100 to nothing. Okay? Now, you might remember 2 weeks ago in the Senate, Ketanji Brown Jackson will be referred to by me most of the time as KBJ, okay, was confirmed as a new Supreme Court justice, yes? You know how many votes she got? Did she need 60 votes in the Senate to be confirmed? Okay. Now, you used to need 60 votes to become a federal judge because the Senate has to approve that, right? We all know that. The Senate has to approve presidential appointments to his cabinet, ambassadors, federal judges. Okay, you with me? There's another thing called a consul that run consulates in different countries. You guys know what a consulate is? Okay, Kinsey, you're going to Europe this summer. You might want to be familiar with what the consulate is. You got an embassy where the ambassador is. You got the consulate where the consular is. Okay? So when we adopted Lily from China, we didn't go to the embassy. We went to the consulate, which is where they do visas. Okay? So it's a safe place if you're in another country and you've got to get to a safe place. You go to the embassy, the U.S. embassy in their capital. Embassies are always in the capital of the other country. So in Washington, D.C., guys, we have about 200 embassies from other countries. Like the Russian embassy is in D.C., Ukrainian embassy is in D.C., the Italian, and they're all in Washington, D.C., okay? And by the way, those embassies are their soil on our soil. So American embassies overseas in other capitals are on, that is our soil. Okay, so if they attack our embassy, it's an attack on American soil overseas. Does that make sense? And if we attack the Russian embassy in Washington, D.C., that's an attack on their soil. So that's kind of a cool thing we do diplomatically with other nations. Okay, and that's where you get into that diplomatic immunity. You know, the diplomats that are in our country, you know, they can break some of our laws and not be punished, that sort of thing, unless it's a serious crime. So you get things like huge numbers of parking tickets by Saudi ambassadors and stuff like that. Okay, diplomats. Okay, so sorry. Okay, back in 2010, when Obama was president, I don't know if I told you this story or not. The Republicans were filibustering his judicial nominees, the judges he was appointing to the federal courts. They're like, we're not putting this radical liberal on the court. And they filibuster. And so the Senate Majority Leader at the time, Harry Reid, did what was called the nuclear option. Okay? They got rid of the filibuster for judicial nominees. So Obama was able to get his judges approved through the Senate with 51 votes. So you only need 51 votes to approve a federal judge in the Senate. What goes around comes around. President Trump was elected in 2016, and during his 4 years, there were 3 vacancies on the Supreme Court. And how many votes did those justices need to get confirmed? 51. Okay, so the Democrats couldn't filibuster. They couldn't stop it. Now, how do you guys feel about this? Do you like the idea that it takes 60 votes for a law to pass through the Senate? Or do you think it should be 51? Should we do away with the filibuster? Because in 2020, when Biden was running for president, the Democrats were pushing this idea to get rid of the filibuster and to pack the court so Joe Biden could add new justices to the court. 2 Democratic senators that said, no, we're not doing what Harry Reid did with judicial nominees and getting rid of the filibuster. We're not doing that. Those 2 Democratic senators, you should remember their names. Joe Manchin of West Virginia and Kristen Sinema of Arizona. They stood up to their own party and said, look, this is a 200-year tradition in the United States Senate that you need at least some of both parties to pass a bill. Hi. Oh.
Top 10 of 4 years. Where she was.
Okay. Thank you. So, yeah, I don't want to get rid of it either. I mean, it's frustrating that you need to get some of the other parties' votes sometimes. That's frustrating, but I think for the benefit of the American people, at least having some of both parties agree to a law. Okay, so when we did Obamacare yesterday, right? Remember? Democrats had 60 seats. The Republicans couldn't stop it until what happened, right? One of the senators died. Okay. Which was kind of goes along with the movie. Mr. Smith Goes to Washington. Okay. So, so basically, every senator has veto power over the rules of every bill. Okay. Actually, it was 2/3, not 75. So you needed, back in 1917, you needed 67 votes to stop a filibuster. Then they changed it to 60. Okay. Which the proper term for stopping a filibuster is a cloture. Good? Okay. So I think, based on what we did yesterday, you guys probably got a pretty good understanding how the Senate functions and watching the movie, right? So, more than most people. Okay. All right. Now, the bill has to be voted on in the House and the Senate first. Okay. Voting is pretty simple. Okay. After debate, members vote on the bill. Now, you used to have to be present to vote. You had to be in the chamber to vote until COVID. Then Nancy said, nope, you don't have to be present. You can phone in your vote. Now, taking off masks off the planes. Masks out of most schools, unless you're in New York or Philly. Okay. Lawrence, Kansas. Okay. But you still don't need to be present. And I think they should go back to making members show up to vote, personally. Okay. This is a graph of filibusters. Okay. This goes back to 1963. Okay. So you can see quite a few filibusters. This is 2007, 2008. You saw quite a few. Okay. And that's just really when a party says, look, we don't like this bill, we're going to filibuster. The other party doesn't actually make them do it. I mean, if you got 41 members that are saying we're going to filibuster, they're not going to make them do it because it would take too long. Okay. So it's just the threat of a filibuster prevents a bill from coming up for a vote. Okay. Okay. And then this, these are roll call votes. Okay. Critical bills may have roll call where they'll call each member's name. Okay. Senator Moran from Kansas, and he'll say it out loud, yay or nay. Okay, that's a roll call vote. Now, this is a good graph that's in your notes, guys. Okay, so you got the House here, you got committees, bill gets a number, signed to a committee, subcommittee, hearings, subcommittee markup, full committee markup, Then the House has the Rules Committee that's open, closed, or modified that I had in the slides, okay? Then it goes on the calendar. Then you get floor action where they debate it or add amendments to it, okay? The bill is passed. Then it goes to conference committee. That's going to be our next step. The Senate, they don't have a Senate Rules Committee because there are no rules. The bill gets numbered, sent to committee, subcommittee, hearing, subcommittee markup, full committee markup. Bill goes on the calendar. They may or may not debate it. Floor action. You could see a filibuster. Bill is passed here. We got to go to conference committee. Because remember, when a bill goes to the Senate, because you don't have rules, you can add lots of changes to it, lots of amendments. So, as I talked about yesterday, you're going to have version 1 from the House and version 2 from the Senate. So you got to come together in the conference committee to resolve the differences between those two bills. Okay? And this is I think the third time now that I've talked about conference committee. Okay? So, members of the conference committees are usually from the committees in either house that they began in. Talked about that yesterday, okay? Usually, they've worked on the bill, they support the bill, they have room for compromise, and after the differences are resolved, the committee will vote and create a report. That report is a summary. So, listen, Obamacare law was 2,600 pages long. The report may be 100 pages long. Okay? This is what most members of Congress will read is the report, not the 2,600 pages. That makes sense. Okay? It is rare that a bill makes it to conference committee that it will not pass. If it makes it there, it's probably going to make it. Okay? And here, these are just some pictures of some conference committee rooms where members of the House and Senate are together, working together to hammer out differences in a bill. This looks more like a hearing room here that we talked about before. Okay. So these guys are working. You know, this is where, you know, they're fixing the bill, getting it ready to go to the president. Okay. But after a bill goes through conference committee, guys, it's got to be passed because you're going to get version 3, correct? Version 3's got to go back to the House and the Senate. The exact same bill has to pass both houses. Okay? Then we get to the president. And this is where I realized, oops, I don't think I've talked about this with you guys. Okay? President has 4 options. First 2 are easy. Like, hey, yeah, he's either going to sign it into law or he's going to veto it. Right? There are 2 other options, and they all surround around 10 days. Okay? So if Congress is in session at the end of those 10 days, Congress is still working. It's like we're on Thanksgiving break or we're on summer break. We're not in session. And Congress's calendar follows closely to school calendars. Okay, so like they get a winter break. We call it Christmas break. They've changed it from calling it Christmas break to winter break, right? Because you got to take the Christianity out of things, right? So then you have Thanksgiving break, which is now fall break. Okay. When you go to college, it'll be fall break, not Thanksgiving, because what really do we have to be thankful for, right, in this country? Yeah, so we don't want to do stuff like that. That might offend somebody. So anyhow, let's be woke, all right? We got to be woke. It's 2022. Yes, you like it when I get sarcastic, don't you? No? Livens things up a little bit. Thank you. All right. So, if it's on the desk of the president for 10 days and Congress is in session, it automatically becomes law. if they are not in session, it's an automatic veto. Okay? Now, if the president doesn't have the cojones, okay, to sign or veto a bill, he can let it become law, or he can let it be vetoed without him doing it himself. Does that make sense? These are rare. Okay? You could see a case where this, like, the president really did not agree with the bill, but he knows if he vetoes it, Congress is going to override his veto. Because remember, 2/3 majority in both houses will override a presidential veto. Okay? So he's like, they're going to override my veto. I'm just going to let it become a law. I'm not putting my name on it. Okay? Now, there's no political science term for that. Okay? It's on the next slide. No? Do I have it up here? Okay, well, we've created a name for number C here. Okay, and this was way back the first year I taught government. I taught regular government, just like you guys. Okay, and there's no name. There's a name for the pocket veto. There's no name for this. Why? So I had a student back in 1999. His name was Dawn Guerin. And she said, Mr. Ebright, we should give this a name. Like filibuster or gerrymandering or pocket veto. And this is the name she came up with. For C. So it's like it's being signed, but it's not being signed. It becomes law. Called the Ghostwriter Provision. Okay? Now, I've been teaching government for 20 years, and I've taught all of my government students this term. If I teach government for another 20 years, it's going to become part of the lexicon. And eventually it's going to wind up in textbooks. The Ghostwriter Provision. Okay? So on your essay, which you're writing an essay over the 4 things, okay, you don't actually have to write this out. You can say the president has 4 options when a bill is sent to him. He can veto it, he can sign it, he can ghostwriter, or pocket veto. So you don't have to write all that out. You're welcome, Dawn. Okay? Yay, Dawn. And I've always given her credit for that. Okay? Last I heard, she was working as a bartender out at Reflection Ridge. I don't know what she's doing now. That was a few years ago. Okay. Okay. She was funny. I like Dawn. So, all right. So good. We've got a bill. Okay. Done. Now we can take the test on Tuesday. Yeah?